In all of these situations, people have choices. This nation was founded on our ability to choose and the independence to govern ourselves rather than be governed by others. The liberty to live our lives as we see fit and without undue external influence. The ability to live as free citizens rather than subjects of government. During my lifetime, I've observed a disturbing trend, one that seems to have accelerated exponentially over the past decade or so. That of the American people giving up their right to choose for themselves. Instead, they choose to follow others without consideration. When did the image of a strong and independent American become something to be vilified? When did we decide that conformity was preferable to uniqueness? When did we decide that our ability to choose for ourselves must be subjugated to the will of others? When did the American people decide to give up being citizens and decide to be subjects? According to Webster's dictionary, a citizen is defined as the native of a city or an inhabitant who enjoys the freedom and privileges of the city in which he resides. American citizens are those who enjoy the freedoms and privileges of this nation. Over the decades, Americans have given up many of those freedoms in an attempt to get along with others. We gave up our freedom of speech, first to the politically correct, who then took over our governments and human resource departments. Then we gave up our privacy to tech giants who vacuum up our data in exchange for the latest gadget in the claim of making our lives easier. We gave up our freedom of the press to social media, who in turn encouraged us to give up our freedom of thought. Let us not forget that we also gave up our civil liberties to government agencies that do not legally exist. Lastly, it appears we have given up even our right to decide by vote. First, by handing over our right to choose to political parties, then by allowing those who corrupt the process to continue without punishment. Just as Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of stew, the American people have sold their birthright as citizens to become subjects of others. See, a subject is defined as being under the power and dominion of another. Just look at the reaction to the mask and vaccine mandates. Few Americans recognize that these acts were violations of the Constitution and therefore void. Even fewer were prepared to defend their rights in the face of government and corporate actors. Millions of Americans still live under the dominion of illegal government actors, not because of the law, but because of their own subjugation and their unwillingness to accept the consequences of defending their rights. I've met hundreds of people who truly believe they have no choice. They complied with the mandates because they didn't think they had a choice. They followed government edicts about their health, their homes, and even their speech because they do not think they have a choice. The truth is, they have a choice, but are afraid of the consequences. As a society, we have become so risk-averse that we will give up just about anything to be kept safe. And in doing so, we become subjects of government. Many will not prepare to defend themselves because we're told that that's what law enforcement is for. We won't prepare for natural disasters because that's what the Federal Emergency Management Agency is for. We won't investigate the drugs, supplements, and foods we eat because that's why we have a Food and Drug Administration. Many see these problems but don't stand up because they are afraid of being put on some list or of receiving a knock on the door. We have done what Benjamin Franklin warned us not to do, and we are suffering the consequences. Mr. Franklin said, "They who would give up essential liberty for temporary security deserve neither liberty nor security." Look around you today. Do you have liberty? Or do government and societal actors claim the authority to tell you how to live your life? Do you have security? Or does law enforcement simply come to mop up the mess afterward? Contrary to popular belief, you do have a choice, and it's a legal one. The Constitution is the proof of the illegality of so much of what the federal and state governments are doing, the infringement on our rights and the usurpation of our powers. The question is, do you have the fortitude to do what is right in the face of evil, knowing there will be consequences? Most of us only know the first stanza of our national anthem, the last two lines of which ask an important question. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Does that banner still wave over the land of the free? Not unless the American people are brave enough to choose rights over false promises of security, to look at the cost of standing up for freedom and to consider the cost worth the gain. As long as we value our comfort more than our rights, we will continue to be servants of those in government. When the 56 men in Philadelphia saw independence in their grasp, they were well aware of the costs. They would be labeled traitors and subject to death. Even though we won the war, some of those men died. Others suffered horribly in British custody, and others had financial ruin. They knew the likely cost of declaring independence, yet were still willing to pledge, and for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Only if the American people recognize that those who work in government serve us, not the other way around, and are willing to pay the price so that the following generations can live free, do I believe we will be brave enough to ensure that the land our children live in will be free.